Holiness.
Hello.
This is my grandson.
Something they went this morning.
My grandson, Raju, and that is this is my daughter-in-law, Nivedita, and my son, Vivekananda.
Sondhi. Great friend of mine, Sondhi.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Professor M.L. Sondhi Memorial Trust and the M.L. Sondhi Institute for Asia-Pacific Affairs, I extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has gathered here this afternoon, and especially thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who has come down from the cool of Dharamsala to graciously accept the 2016 M.L. Sondhi Prize for International Politics.
Thank you. Seems too long. I think 3 persons together. Thank you.
I request Madam Sondhi to present the plaque to His Holiness. May I now humbly request His Holiness the Dalai Lama to address the audience on compassion and global responsibility. I know he doesn't need any introduction to this audience. His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Respected brothers, sisters, and rest of brothers and sisters. I always stress we are same human being. I truly believe that. I always consider I'm one of the 7 billion human beings. In mysterious level or reincarnation or something. But obviously, nobody should argue we are same human being. I really feel now time come, we have to stress oneness of 7 billion human beings. Because there's a lot of problem, including killing. Actually, unthinkable. And more sort of, also the serious thing is, with the name of religion, fighting, killing. All major religious tradition is actually a source of compassion. All major religious tradition carry same message. Message of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline. That very thing of causing division, killing. I think our environment is something wrong. Now it is humanity's responsibility to change that. Not through preaching, not through prayer, but through action. In order to carry realistic, holistic action, firstly, we must develop clear vision here. And not only mere just a vision, we need as a determination with optimism. So I always share whenever I give talk, we are same human being. I want happiness, joyfulness, and the rest of the 7 billion human beings, everyone want happy life. So, meantime, many problems, as I briefly mentioned, many problems essentially our own creation. Now some hopeful sign is, according to some scientific sort of research, they make conclusion, basic human nature is more compassionate. So therefore, there is real hope if we make effort, realistically, with determination. I think my lifetime may not achieve, but later part of 21st century could be more peaceful world, more compassionate world, if we make an effort now. So I mentioned this young boy, when I met, his eyes, very fresh, very nice. So I told him, this young Indian is a generation who can create a better future. In India's case, more compassionate India. And then, like you, millions and millions of young people of the world, say, I usually describe, like your age, I describing generation of 21st century. So, in this century, just a beginning. So if we make effort now, in a systematic way and realistic way, with determination, then I think your later part of your life, you can see better world. The generation of 20th century, we will not see. I think better to involve difficult world. We may go heaven, relax. So sometimes I really feel, and also you see, telling the generation of 20th century, that means you see people whose age 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It seems you see, we create more trouble on this planet. So generation of 20th century. So now, actually, we create a lot of work to solve by these generation of the 21st century. So, in a sense, we really need a sense of oneness of humanity. A Tibet issue, all these. This is too much emphasis. My nation, my culture, my language. So I really admire the European Union's spirit. In the past, many centuries fighting, killing each other in the name of their sovereignty. Then after Second World War, they realized, now we have to think the common interest and share each other. So the European Union, the spirit of European Union, I think very realistic, and I think I think very, very important. So I always say, telling the spirit of European Union eventually, you see, should create African Union. Then a lot of problem, including fighting, killing, I think can reduce. And then a lot of money spent for weapon that can use because of promotion, the farm system and some sort of industries like that. One of my empty sort of dream is Sahara. There's plenty of solar energy. Now that we should use solar energy and create electricity. That electricity not use industry or some other thing, but what's it? Desalination, seawater turned to sweet water. Then I think a large area of Sahara can be Greenland. I think billion, I think 1 or 2 billion human beings life, you see, can provide food on these things. Similarly, Australia, last few years, I'm telling, Australia should make effort from all sides. You see, each decade, 100 kilometers or 200 inward, and planting more trees, and again, you see, use seawater like that. So we have the technology as a desalination. So that is wonderful. Then I think many sort of positive side effect. Seawater can check. No matter global warming, we extensively use seawater. Then I think we can, otherwise it's Calcutta or Shanghai or Tokyo, I think within a few decades may submerge. So like that. So now time comes, we have to think seriously for promotion of sense of oneness of humanity. Now there, the compassion, sense of concern of others' well-being is the key factor. And with that, sense of global responsibility. I myself, when I think I'm one of the human beings, so when I met people, so no barrier. Immediately, because very close. If I stress, I'm Dalai Lama, something very special. Then that sort of mental attitude creates barrier. Oh. So out of 7 billion human beings, only one Dalai Lama. If I too much emphasis Dalai Lama, then I become lonely person. When I think we human beings, human brothers, sisters, then this side, when I look, human brothers, and beautiful because of younger sisters or brothers. At this side, experienced old brothers, sisters. So then feel we are same. No need formality, no need diplomatic smile. I think you have such experience. We just express our nature, right? So now, these days, I am talking. Firstly, we have to work, try to educate our younger generation. The warm-heartedness, compassionate sort of mind is not part of religious practice. It's just something very relevant to humanity. If we have more compassionate mind, firstly, your physical health much better. Now some scientists also say the constant fear, constant anger is actually eating our immune system. More compassionate mind, more calm mind are very, very helpful to sustain your immune system. So in this respect, look my face. Now 82-year-old person, seems quite handsome. So some people, some my long-time friend, when we met, they expressed to me, since many years, they say, your face not much change. So then they asked me, what's your secret? Then firstly, I jokingly telling, my secret, I don't want to share with other people. Then I seriously explain, nothing. The peace of mind, it really makes differences. Then peace of mind, not because of the lamba change. Through dullness, right? I think with dullness, right? Not much thinking, not much idea, and comparatively peace. Not that way. My mind quite sharp. The other day in Arunachal, they say one BJP scientist, secretary or something. You see, a few days we become very close friend. Then I told him, each night I spend 9 hours sleep. Then morning, 3 o'clock, wake up, and next for 5 hours meditation. So that meditation sharpening my mind. So with sharp mind, I can I can cheating other people more easily, more wisely. That really, since we become quite a friend, a close friendship feeling. So then he responded me, he only 6 hours sleep, so he cannot cheat other people. So the peace of mind, really very important for our physical health. And also, you see, peace of mind, you see, create, I think, the basis of human intelligence properly. Too much emotion, then, you see, because of that creates some kind of, because of the blocks or obstacle, our intelligence objectively look, study, and analyze. So in order to objectively analyze things, our mind must be calm. So therefore, irrespective of whether religious believer or not, human compassion is the key factor which we learn from our mother, from our parent. And as I mentioned earlier, basic human nature is more compassionate. So now, so the drawback is existing education system, modern education system. Is very much oriented about material value, external value, not much talk about our inner value. So we already now committed, with help of some scientists and some educationists. You see, we are trying to enrich existing education system, including some education about our inner value. Strictly follow Indian tradition, secular way, not based on religion, but scientific findings and common sense and common experience. So I fully committed promotion these things. And then now spent 58 years in this country. So I developed full conviction. Religious harmony is very possible. So some part of the world, as I mentioned earlier, religion also is causing some problem. That due to, because of the narrow-minded. Look, wider. Then India is one example. Most populated, democratic, ancient nation. All world major religious traditions live together. Occasionally some problem. That's understandable. But overall, I think wonderful religious harmony exists in this country over, I think, 2,000 years, to 3,000 years. So therefore, it is possible, religious harmony. So I fully committed promotion that. So these, this is my sort of today commitment possible because the Chinese communist sort of suppression inside Tibet, and I escaped. If I still in Bodala or Nurbulinga, I think I may be more orthodox Lama. because you see, come to India, political asylum, then you see, find a lot of opportunity meeting with people, particularly scientists. Nowadays, I describe myself half Buddhist monk, half scientist. And actually, you see, I think some of you may know. It's one of Buddha's statement. You see, mentioned, "Oh, my follower, monks, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." That's a very scientific way. So some of the Nalanda master rejected Buddha's own teaching. You see, they mention certain Buddhist teaching, some text, some sutra. They mentioned, if you accept literally what this particular sutra mentioned, then it goes against the reason. Therefore, we must reject that. That's quite unique. So, I have liberty to reject some of our traditional belief, such as Mount Meru. I publicly now reject. Yeah. Obviously, I think almost daily, I think thousands of people, you see, flying from India to Europe or India to Japan and then America, Canada, like that. So nobody see Mount Meru. So therefore, you see, although it's a certain Buddhist text like Abhidhamma Koshakarika wrote by Bosuband, it's a very detailed explanation, the height and the size, the Mount Meru. And the Kalachara Tantra also is mentioned that. So, with respect, I reject. So we have that liberty. Good. So then finally, of course, I prefer some question and answer, more sort of interaction. I prefer that. And then lastly, when I heard the late Professor Sondhi's memorial or something, I reflect those days. He really showing genuine concern about Tibet. And some of his sort of idea he mentioned at that time. At that time I felt, oh, that's unrealistic. Now seems some of his idea is, I think, truly far-sighted sort of ideas. So he, I think, one of the great supporter of Tibet issue. And every supporters of Tibetan issue is, I usually describe, not pro-Tibetan, but rather pro-justice. Since our problem is very much based on truth and compassion. I think since 8th century, Nalanda master Shantarakshita, invited by Tibetan emperor. Since then, we follow sincerely, seriously, they follow Nalanda tradition. Mainly through study and practice. Study, average 20-30 years, rigorous study. The root text memorize by heart. Then commentary wrote by Nalanda masters. Each word explained by teacher. And then use extensively logic, through logical way, debate. So that's, I think, unique among whole Buddhist world. So therefore, you see, Tibetan Buddhist tradition is truly the Nalanda tradition. So, preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is not only concern for 6 million Tibetan people, but the whole, the Buddhist world. And then also, basic Buddhist way of approach is, I think, very, very open. So now many scientists also now showing a genuine interest. So for example, quantum physics, very similar that of Buddhist philosophy, mathematical philosophy. I think one time, I think many of you knows Raja Ramana. Raja Ramana, you see, told one occasion or meeting, the quantum physics in the world, in modern world, something new concept. But in this country, 2000 years ago, already developed that concept. So it is true. So like that. And then I think the India really can make significant contribution for inner peace, not through prayer, as I mentioned earlier, not through prayer, not through belief, but fuller knowledge about the whole system of our emotion, our mind. Then, you see, we better equipped to tackle our destructive emotions, such as anger. So these knowledge, not only ancient Indian knowledge, but also relevant to today's world. So I'm trying to make the contribution as much as from our experience, our knowledge, which come from India. And then, meantime, now last, you see, 2 years, I now fully convinced now within this country, the ancient Indian knowledge must revive. So then you feel grateful to Chela. We are Chela. You are Guru. So once you know how much precious thing we Chela get, then we are not only refugee, but eventually become Guru. The ancient Guru become Chela. So in any way, so that I think around 400 million Chinese now follow Buddhism. Now Buddhist population. Now I think among world, different country, I think China is the biggest number Buddhist population. And many of these Buddhists gradually realize Tibetan Buddhist tradition is authentic Nalanda tradition. So many of them following, eager to follow Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So Government of India and many of our friends, including late Professor Sondhi, they immense help to us, small refugee community. Now, after more than 50 years, now situation becomes such. Now we can make some significant contribution, not only India, also eventually in China. So like that. So think, Kasoda, remember, Kasoda, review these past a few decades, then like Professor Sondhi's and Pandit Nehru, these are very, very kind to us. So we never forget. So quite logical. And our relation is relation between Guru and Chela. So logically, when Chela facing some problem, Guru have some moral responsibility. So you've done that. Thank you. So some questions.
Little Master Raghav Sondhi, who would like to present you a book which is a collection of Professor Sondhi's select writings on India's foreign policy, just recently published under Professor M.L. Sondhi Trust, edited by Harsh V. Pant, who is also an eminent scholar.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. One chocolate.
That's great.
Your Holiness, I am Vijay Naik. I'm a journalist. I have very fond memories of meeting you some years back in Dharamshala. My question to you is that when the whole world listens to you, when the whole world listens to you and your advice, why the Chinese are not listening to you? Do you think that there is something missing in your power of persuasion? Thank you.
We have to make distinction. Chinese government and Chinese people, even government, many Chinese officials, I notice there's many retired officials. Like ordinary Chinese, when we met, they really showing genuine warm feeling. And nowadays, every week, I meet some Chinese from mainland China, 15, 20, every week. Whenever we meet these Chinese from mainland China, always tear. So Chinese people, as a people, wonderful. But then this system, political system, not only Tibetan, but also their own people, such as Tangam Muscat. You see, the whole system, totalitarian system. I often, you see, telling, where I met some Chinese and some retired officials also, I telling them, 3 or 4 billion Chinese people have every right to know the reality. Once you see, people knows the reality, 1.3 or 4 billion Chinese people also have the ability to judge what is right, what is wrong. So the censorship and distorted information is morally wrong. Oh, Amala, Mataji. I always refer to her, my mother, Mataji. So she also, you see, her own sort of attitude was me, dear son. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Just you, my son.
So, I think the totalitarian system has not much future. So the leaders, I think they really desperately fighting how to keep their power. So look, former Soviet Union, and most or many Eastern European countries, you see, they try to keep their sort of totalitarian system, but eventually, since that is very artificial, many party member, outwardly they are faithful party member, but inside different. So how can keep that system, that situation for long? Very difficult. And meantime now Chinese, because economic condition improve, so number of Chinese tourists place touring different places, and many Chinese, including many Chinese leaders, their children educating in foreign countries. So things definitely will change. And other side, Tibetan spirit inside Tibet, very strong. Over now 60 years, the hardliner communists, they use various methods, but completely fail to change Tibetan spirit. So therefore, as you mentioned, this single person, you see, quite troublesome for Chinese government. Because the Tibetan people trust me like that. Yes? Next question?
Thank you.
Your Holiness, incidentally, the question you have just explained now, the fag end of communism is going to come very soon. I happened to predict in 1969 in one of my books meant for Indian Foreign Service, Indian Administrative Service, specially written on an essay on Czechoslovakia, the rape of Czechoslovakia and after. It happened that the fag end of 20th century will see the fizzling and floundering of communism. It is a good news, it happened. But anyhow, my question is that the means by which we live have outdistanced the ends for which we live. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. And if I add the last line, we have guided child and misguided men. How His Holiness reacts to this phenomena, which is also engulfing the modern world in a big way because of this bastard materialism which we are having on planet Earth.
That's true. As I mentioned earlier, our existing education system is not adequate to bring healthy mind. So therefore, we already involved. And here, some scientists also have the strong view existing education system not adequate. So just this morning I met some people, and now tomorrow we roughly finalize, and then after some time, 2-3 months, we greater sort of a conference meeting, then the finalize drafting about curriculum of secular ethics. Then firstly, you see here, I think India, also in many, my friends, they are ready to carry experiment, you see this new curriculum. So it is true, but things are changing now. Many scholars, many scientists now showing because of dissatisfaction about existing education system. Or spiritual. Among the spirituality, is basically two groups. One group, theistic religion, believe creator, and another, the rest of the world religion is theistic. The non-theistic religion, in Indian religion, Jainism, and one part of Sankhyaism, very ancient Indian tradition. Then Buddhism. These three non-theistic religion, no concept of creator, but ourselves as a creator. Okay. Oh, not yet finished. So I always telling people or expressing, once my mouth open, blah, 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 go that. So that is one of my weakness. So now, the non-theistic religion is concerned, particularly Buddhism, as I mentioned earlier. Reason, investigation is key factor for our own practice also, not just prayer, not just shamatha, analytical meditation. Analyze what's the reality. Like quantum physics, very similar. The scientists, quantum physics, just you see, they find something intellectually. We implement that theory. So in order to reduce the power of ignorance, ultimate ignorance. So therefore, now the quantum physics, very similar. However, the quantum physicists now they say external thing not exist by objectively, but finally observer. It depends on observer. Now the next question: where is observer? A scientist, no answer. Not yet, modern science not yet developed to investigate where is mind or where is self, not yet. So on that level, ancient Indian sort of philosophy, because they already now see things very much depend on observer side. So the observer, some, I think, except Buddhism, I think all religion, including ancient Indian non-theistic religion, also you see accept the concept of Atma, something permanent, previous life to this life, from this life, next life. The Buddha Dharma, Anatma theory, no independent self. Anatma does not mean nothing exists about self. No. But self is designated on the combination of mind and body. And mind and body, also you see, grosser level of mind and body, more subtle level, body and mind, very subtle level, body and mind. So these very detailed explanation there. So now, more and more discussion with scientists. See, number of scientists now really showing genuine interest. Now psychology is concerned. The modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology, modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. Ancient Indian psychology, highly developed. Now the only problem is you, traditionally our guru, I think neglected about this knowledge. Yes.
Your Holiness, I am a journalist from UNI. My question is, would you share with us your visit to Arunachal Pradesh, and do you find Government of India is becoming more assertive now and in dealing with the Tibetan issue vis-a-vis China?
I think before my visit take place, I asked concerned Indian ministry. Then Government of India say, no problem, go ahead. Then I visited. Then some reaction from Chinese side, quite unusual. So I don't know. So fortunately, while I was in Tawang, no intrusion way. Very close from Tawang and the border. So if some Chinese soldier come, then I may suddenly leaving Tawang. But fortunately, that not happen. So I think these things, like I think North Korea and America, you see the one way looks very serious, but in reality, nobody dare real sort of fighting. So Chinese also, I feel like that. India, not small country, and military power also now, India, you see, gaining. So therefore, the only thing is compromise, nothing else. So therefore, and then also, you see, the Chinese, when you see think about the conflict with India, they have to think about situation inside Tibet. So then, double sort of responsibility. Firstly, control Tibetan, and facing with the Indian army. Not easy. Like that. So Chinese hardliner consider me troublemaker. So troublemaker, I think, demonstrated as a troublemaker. Okay, next question.
Your Holiness, I'm a journalist as well from the New York Times. And I have another question about your visit to Tuang. The people of that region have for many years expressed a desire, even a longing, to be the site of the birth of the next Dalai Lama. And my question to you is, according to your understanding of the doctrine, of the teachings, does it matter whether the people of a region are welcoming or indifferent or hostile? Does that have any bearing on reincarnation itself?
That point, I didn't pay much attention. Few years ago, in Newark, near New York, once on my lecture, and then beside that, meeting some media people. Then one media asked me about reincarnation, the 15th Dalai Lama. So then I take my glass and look at his face. Then, do you think reincarnation is quite hurry or not? No? Then he said, no hurry, no hurry. So, actually, as early as 1969, one of my official statements, I stated the very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. Not important. Important is teaching. So in this country, now all major monastic institutions re-established in India, mainly in Karnataka state. So over now 40 years, 40, 50 years, the younger generation becoming good scholar. So they will carry our 1,000-year-old tradition which we kept from Nalanda tradition. So now this younger generation, they certainly carry the full responsibility to preserve. So that's more important. In Tibetan sort of society, the Lama institution considers something important. That is not very important. Actually, there's no Buddha's institution, Buddha's reincarnation, no Nagarjuna's institution, no Nagarjuna's sort of, because of reincarnation. But they are teaching. Still remain. So we study and we meditate on it. So that's the way Buddha's teaching is more sacred than Buddha himself. So Tibetan, they eventually invented the Lama institution. That is sometimes helpful, sometimes harmful. So now key thing is study. The whole, this time also, I asked, people in Men, in Tawang, your sort of unshakable faith is good, but the faith remain, blind faith is not much sort of benefit. You must study. I always emphasizing that from Ladakh up to Arunachal, all these monasteries or temples eventually should be learning center and must carry some program for study. Just faith. And some Lama carry some rituals, outdated. Really, I feel.
Sir,
Yes?
May I add one other reason that he gave on another occasion for that the question can be kept pending for some time. Our son and my wife, and we had gone to call on him, and he insisted on walking my wife. She has difficulty in walking because of Parkinson's, to the lift. So when he was holding her and taking her, she said, Your Holiness, we pray for your good health and long life. He stopped. He said, I believe in science. So I had my DNA checked. So the scientist told me I will live, and he named a figure which is very reassuringly far away. He said, in any case, longer than Chinese communism.
Frankly speaking, it is quite, I believe that the artificial sort of the system, their own people now losing faith. So only, and North Korea also, I think Korean people, because of their leaders' fear, they completely sort of, because of the distorted information. And countryside, very poor. So the lack of information, therefore people do not know what's the reality, what's outside world. So one occasion, say, one flight from Chengdu to Lhasa. In that flight, one Chinese officials, another Chinese businessman, and some Tibetan also there. So later we heard some talks between these two, one Chinese businessman, one Chinese official. Then the official criticized Tibetan refugee, in particular in Dalai Lama. Then the Chinese businessman, who have sort of experienced visit different part of the world, he argued, Dalai Lama, not that bad. Dalai Lama is a very wonderful person. So all these, closed society, no sort of, because of realistic information, just closed. So this cannot remain a long period. The world is changing. So therefore, I feel, however, Marxism is concerned, I feel, economy theory, among different economy theory, Marxist economy theory, there are some element of compassion. When Western world industrialized, I think working class people sort of, they are right, much sort of, controlled in handful, capitalist. So Karl Marx, the sense of concern of these working class people, they are right. Working class people, needy people, and they are majority. So Karl Marx theory, developed against bourgeois or these things. So, as far as socio-economy theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. I prefer Marxism or socialism much better than capitalism. I really feel. However, Lenin, I think, spoiled. He, more concerned about political power, totalitarian. So, that also, wartime, the certain mentality developed. Tight control, censorship, wartime, some relevant. Now, certain sort of way of thinking, certain practice, during wartime relevant, now that become part of Marxism. That's totally wrong. So, I often telling, Karl Marx theory, wonderful. Lenin spoiled that. So therefore, this totalitarian system. One time after sort of collapse Soviet Union, I have one occasion visit Moscow, the Gorbachev here. And I asked him, the collapse of Soviet Union, whether that the collapse of Marxism or collapse of totalitarian system, I feel some differences. I asked him, no answer. He, the party secretary, of course. I make distinction. The totalitarian system collapse. That does not mean the wonderful Marxism collapse. No, I feel. Yes, next.
So can I ask one question?
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry, again about reincarnation. What is the best information about the Panchen Lama? And do you think the future line of Panchen Lamas will proceed from the Chinese choice or the Tibetan choice?
Now, Panchen Lama is a reincarnation which I choose. I choose. No information. Some people say, even he no longer there. Some say. Some say he's still alive and carrying normal education. So I don't know. Then official Panchen Lama, Genzen Norbu, according to some of his sort of close friend and including teacher, they say he really paying serious attention for study. So I think this Panchen Lama problem, once the Chinese government overall sort of policy regarding Tibet and regarding me is more realistic, becoming more realistic, then this problem easily can solve like that. Next question.
Your Holiness, I have found your healing touch on so many occasions. When I was very ill, you had touched me and I have been healed. That's one of the reasons why I came here. But I teach in Jawaharlal Nehru University, which is a leftist university, which is now going deeply troubled because you're talking about the hope coming from young people. And young people are committing suicide, hanging themselves, taking antidepressant pills. I do not know where is my peace of mind, where is my spirituality, because I represent one of the largest centers in this university. And I mean, it's a spiritual desert that we are going through. Would you have any answer? I mean, how do I function in a place like this, and why do young people commit suicide like this? Thank you.
This is not only a few cases here and there, but in America and also Japan, the number of suicide increasing, particularly among the younger generation. So now we have to think worldwide some kind of movement. And as I already mentioned, our education, modern education system, you see, we must include some education about our inner peace and how to deal with our emotion. So unless, you see, we develop certain sort of education system which widened our mind, our emotion, this problem will continue. Only talks money, money, money like that, and power. You see, there is no sort of the technique to balance our emotion. That's the problem. But we consider anger as part of our mind and do not know how to tackle these things. So that's the problem. As I think you mentioned today, since you see totally lacking the knowledge and ability to deal with our sort of disturbance or emotion, then relying alcohol or drugs. It actually long run worsening. So I think we have to think worldwide and step by step, more realistic, practical, systematic system. Otherwise, this is a problem. I think we remain. Next question.
Your Holiness, I'm a media student and I wanted to ask something that is very much relevant to my profession too. How do you maintain equanimity in the face of evil? I mean, how are you able to take an optimistic approach in a time when so many hate incidents keep coming in every day? And especially when the rest of the world, so many people in the world just normalize the behavior and adopt a very nonchalant attitude unless it happens to themselves.
Actually, when we saying promotion of human value, compassion, compassion, two levels. One level mainly related with physical, a biological factor. We are a social animal. We all come from our parent, our mother. So biologically, we need parents' affection, friends' affection. Now that, not the compassion which we are saying to promote through education, through awareness promotion, but you see that biological factors of compassion is the seed of compassion. But then use human intelligence, the further sort of strengthening compassion. First level of compassion is biased, only towards your friends, your parents, your friends. That also is very much based on others' attitude. Now that is actually attachment, not genuine compassion. Now genuine compassion, for example, love oneself. Not, you see, because you yourself, you see, your own sort of attitude towards yourself is something nice. On that basis, love oneself, not that. Oneself want happiness, do not want suffering. On that basis, sense of concern of oneself comes. Now that 100% same way to other people, even your enemy, as far as their attitude is concerned, negative towards you. But still, they are human brothers, sisters. So same right, all have same right to overcome suffering. On that basis, that level, because of the use our intelligence, reasoning, on that level, develop sense of concern. That is genuine, unbiased compassion. Not depend on others' attitude, but themselves, being selves. That we, through education. Now, so number of sort of practitioner, when they heard it is some, you see, the atrocity from some Chinese, the hardliner, they never feel angry, but instead angry, sense of concern of their well-being. 1958, suppression, firstly start Kham area, then northeast Amdo area, the 58 and 57, 58, a lot of suppression in Amdo area, Kham as well as Amdo area. I know one Lama, actually teacher of the High Lama in Tush Hill Monastery. So that Lama, around that period, I think a few hundred monks arrested. Among them, that teacher, great philosopher, great sort of a scholar, also included. Then finally, he faced death sentence, execution. So, with Chinese soldier reach the place where going to shot. Then he asked the Chinese soldier, please, let me pray a short moment. And then Chinese soldier also said, okay. Say, okay. Then the prayer is started. And the basic meaning is all sort of negative feeling of other, please absorb myself. And all my sort of positive sort of emotion, such as the love or forgiveness, these things, give them. That kind of wording. Usually we call exchange. All negative things of other, take oneself. And all positive things you have, give them. So that a scholar recite that prayer, and then he say, now shut me. No anger, So all this through training, through practice, it is possible to create that kind of mental state. That such person is in no danger of mental unrest or something difficulties. So many sort of practitioners who spend years in Chinese prison or gulag, after you see some of them came to India, and when we talk, they say, oh, they found best period for practice is during their prison life. So some of these people really feel grateful to those people who create a lot of sort of torture like that. So that is the genuine, compassion. Use fully our brain and look from a wider perspective. Hatred, anger, what use? No use. Destroy your peace of mind, eventually destroy your healthy body. On the other hand, compassion really immediately brings peace of mind, and a healthy body, and long life. And then, not only that, at the time of death, if you carry your life more compassionate way, then at the time of death, you feel satisfied. And one of my favorite prayer every day, so long space remain, so long sentient beings suffering remain, I will remain in order to serve. And with that, my body, my speech, my mind, totally dedicated well-being of other. That brings inner strength and really feel the fulfillment of purpose of our life. Like that. So use human intelligence, then try to neutralize this destructive emotion, and then increase this positive emotion. That's genuine, practice of Dharma. Not just a ritual, and many Tibetan monasteries in the Ladakh and the men in this area, some sort of horn or some kasa, and so-called sacred dance. Meaningless. One time in Ladakh, many years ago, one day some monk carried some sort of spiritual sort of articles and then sacred dance. I asked, what is happening here? One dead body, they are benefactor factor, you see, passed away. So that body now carrying with that sacred music or sacred dance. Then later I told them, this is wrong. In form of offering to Buddha, occasionally maybe sacred dance is okay. But you see, dead bodies, you see, carrying, and is totally wrong. Then later they stop. So like that, some of our sort of Kasuda, I think as a matter of fact, some spiritual sort of, practice, there are some influence from the social system, the feudal system. Someone taught. And I think India is now a caste system. I totally against that. Now time come. We have to work. So these, I think the feudal system, due to feudal system, the landlord, in order to exploit the poorer section of people, then they say, oh, God created the caste system. So we have certain right to exploit poor people. So this, I think in Tibetan, the Lama institution, there are some sort of influence. That's why 2001, I start my sort of retirement from political responsibility. Then 2011, I totally retired. And not only myself retired, but also now the 4th century old tradition, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temple and spirituality. Now that officially, formally, voluntarily, proudly cease. So now this system, I think there's some connection with feudal system, outdated. So religious leaders should be pure religious activities, like that. So sometimes I jokingly telling people, this system, since 5th Dalai Lama, this system developed dual responsibility, spiritual and temporal. So if 5th Dalai Lama reappear, and what he going to say? But there's no danger. I'm quite sure no such danger, so I have free hand to decide that. So I think also certain system, including Tibetan Buddhist tradition, certain practice, little bit superstitious. This, I think, actually against the true Nalanda tradition. The Nalanda tradition is very scientific and a democratic principle. Buddha, you see, they make some sort of system, ordination. While Buddha himself there, he quite free. So different sort of practice, right? Different way to ordination. Then he eventually made certain sort of rules that no single person have the authority to give ordination. Only 5 bhikshus. So that's a democratic principle. So he himself, exception. He do not want to share his follower. One single person decide or ordination. That's wonderful. So the Vinaya practice very much in the spirit of democratic system. The 5 bhikshus. There is 100 monks. Activities or performance or something, about 100. All before they start the sort of performance, you see, the main person have to ask the 4 Sangha, and whether agree or not. So then unanimously agree, then carry the work. So very, very democratic sort of principle. Then, of course, the Sanskrit tradition, the key sort of practice is infinite altruism. That also is a democratic principle. Then theory, as I mentioned earlier, so quantum physics theory is very similar. Yes?
His Holiness, my name is Kulajit. I'm from Manipur, as you are aware of it, I guess. I have 2 questions. One is, you have recently visited Arunachal Pradesh, and Chinese government had recently named 5 places of Arunachal. So what do you think about that?
Huh?
6.
Oh.
And my Another question is, as you mentioned, the time had changed. The Chinese government, China is now the second largest economy in the world and one of the largest military powers. And so, what do you think? When do you think the President's Tibetan issue will be resolved in your lifetime? Can you?
It is quite complicated. Briefly, I already mentioned. I remember, I think one of officials from Ministry of External Affairs, you see, many years ago, once he told me, once there was a meeting with some Chinese officials. Then the Chinese officials, they mentioned before 1950, Indian civil administration or some police force in Arunachal, this town area, not there. The Chinese side mentioned that. Then he responds, "Oh, before 1950, you also not there." then the Chinese official remained silent and their face become red. One experience was a foreign ministry's official told me like that kind of experience. So therefore now here, this also now, in many names in Tibetan area, in northeast Tibet and eastern Tibet, many names changed, used by Chinese word. Some Tibetan word they cannot pronounce properly, so they change. Okay.
Hello. First of all, I'm very honored to be listening to you. My name is Pema. I'm a student from GNU. I'm doing my MPhil, and my MPhil dissertation is on Tibetan settlement vis-a-vis Nepal's approaches and policy. And I have been reading many books, many articles, but what I couldn't connect is the Tibetan settlements and the Tibetan refugees in Nepal with the Tibetan exile government. I just wanted to know, because during the beginning of 1959, when they first arrived to Nepal, what they were facing lots of problems, and later on, Swiss international government helped. Even the father Moran, he had helped. But in the beginning, what I didn't find the connection of Central Tibetan government with these refugees, and I don't think nobody can reply more better than you. Because you have been you have been helping all the settlements in India, and I would like to know the connections, how Tibetan central government was helping Tibetan. Thank you.
Situation, Tibetan refugee in Nepal and in India, there are some differences. And also some refugee in Bhutan. So there are some, because of the political situation, some differences. But detail, of course, all Tibetan refugee, wherever they live, whether in America and Europe, in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, basically some close connection with our central administration. But then, detailed thing, I think, as I mentioned earlier, since 2011, I totally sort of retired. So I think detailed explanation, eventually I think our political leadership, elected political leadership, I think have, fuller answer with fuller knowledge about current situation. So I myself, not very clear. But Tibetan in Nepal, Tibetan spirit and interest about Tibetan Buddhism now growing. So I always telling them, as I mentioned, we Tibetan, our tradition, Buddhist tradition, very rich. Now, rich tradition must sort of insight that through study That I always telling, and recently in Bodh Gaya, large number of Tibetan community, and also Nepalese, and Nepalese Buddhist. I think in Nepal, I think 30% population are Buddhist. So I urging them, study is very important. So some lamas who often visit Nepal and also who station in Nepal, I always telling them, study, preaching, no, not just ritual, but teaching, explaining about Buddha Dharma. Then Buddhist philosophy. So I always telling these lamas, in order to teach other people these Buddhist philosophical views, the lama themselves have to study. It's not sufficient just to sit on high throne and showing something very exceptional. It's foolish. I myself, you see, age, I think 7 years, I already started study, learning the root text, learn by heart and memorize, and a daily basis, reciting. So at that time, I have no interest for study. So with great reluctance, I have to study. Because one of my teacher keep one whip, one color, yellow colored whip. So suppose that whip is very holy whip for 2 holy students, Dalai Lama. But I already know if holy whip use, then no differences of holy pen. So out of fear, I carry my study. In official sort of function, or Dalai Lama on high throne. But when I get a lesson, my tutor treated me like ordinary student. So occasionally threat with that, whip like that. So study is very important. Sometimes in Tibetan tradition, too holy. So without study, everything knowing. That's blind faith. Okay. Yes?
Your Holiness, you're learned, you're wise, more important, you're ever cheerful, and you've always...
I think you both, I think, spend more time with me, then you will see my angry face.
And you clearly, Your Holiness, you clearly overwhelm the world as you do each one of us in this hall. But I have a very simple question for you. Do you ever feel helpless with the world?
Yes. Then, when I was young, sometimes this is a difficult situation, I complained to my tutor. And the tutor, she recite one quotation of Shantadeva, the 8th centuries, one top Indian master. The sentence, when we face problem or difficulties, if there is a way to overcome, then no need worry, make effort. If there is no way to overcome, then no use too much worry. I think very wise, very wise. These sort of wise thinking come from India. Really. So I often telling or try to share with other people also. I myself is thinking that line. So then, okay, no problem. But difficult situation sometimes brings more enthusiasm, more determination. I think we can see among the Europeans, the generation who really experienced the tremendous difficulties during Second World War and immediate war, very difficulties. So those generation who really experience difficulties, their mental attitude is much stronger than younger generation whose life go very easily. And even small problem, they complain like that. So mental attitude makes big differences. Like that. And then, mainly, as I mentioned earlier, dedicate your being is some way, directly or indirectly, serving other people. Good? And the Shantadeva, the same sort of text also mentioned the troublemaker or your enemy is actually your real teacher. So that kind of sort of advice is reasoning. We, as a sort of practitioner of Dharma, or practitioner of tolerance, we need someone who creates your anger. That's the moment practice of tolerance. So, as I am Buddhist, towards Buddha, no possibility to practice of tolerance. Only enemy who creates trouble. Then, thinking that line, oh, you provide me a golden opportunity to practice of tolerance. Yes.
Sir, it was really enlightening listening to you. I'm a student of Dalai University and I'm from Assam, where you addressed your first conference after your grand escape. So my question is very simple. What we are seeing today in today's world is that a plaguing global terrorism, be it the Mumbai attacks, be it the Paris attacks, or be it anywhere. So how do you see this global terrorism and how do you feel that the humanity should address it? And do you think that a particular religion has some responsibility regarding this global terrorism, or there's some fault in that religion which needs to be addressed?
No. I always say, telling people, now recent years, the very wording Muslim terrorist is wrong. Some time ago in Burma, some Buddhists created some harassment to some Muslim in Burma. So some newspapers say Buddhist terrorist. So those people who indulge terrorist sort of activities, then reality no longer Buddhist, no longer Islam practitioner. So the Islam, according to Islam, you see, the who create some bloodshed, no longer genuine Islam practitioner. And according to Islam, you see, you have to extend your love, entire creature of Allah. So religion all have same potential, in spite of different philosophical views. So I think the wording Muslim terrorist or Buddhist terrorist is, I think, wrong.
Just
and
one more
then,
only.
I think basically, as we already discussed, circumstances, the society, materialistic culture, materialistic way of thinking, way of life. So there's too much emphasis, we and they. Then religion also then use according that mental attitude. Now that we have to work. So I think it is totally wrong. Oh, these are Muslim terrorists and Muslim is bad. Totally wrong. I have a number of friends among the Muslim. Oh, wonderful. Very sensible. Wonderful. Like that.
Okay.
His Holiness, forgive me for asking this question, but your charisma and what you have done for the Tibetan cause for the last 60, 70 years is remarkable for a community. But as we know that for every legacy there is a succession planning or continuity of the momentum post the individual. So my simple question is that have you planned anything that this momentum of Tibetan cause or this propagation of the Nalanda tradition or the Buddhist studies continue even after you, and how this will continue, because a leader like you comes in many generations. So are there any leaders in the making, or there's any planning in that in your mind? Thank you.
As I already mentioned, you see, those students, you see, who spent 20, 30 years study, now these generation becoming, you see, good scholar. So older generation, older sort of professors, generation of professors, you see, going, and the younger one continuously coming. So I have no worry. Then, so long we Tibetan, we kept our sort of knowledge, which now not only for Buddhist but also humanity, among our sort of knowledge, some sort of relevant, some relevant to humanity. So long we kept, you see, these knowledge intact. Then Tibetan issue also automatically go along with these sort of cultural heritage or knowledge. And as I mentioned earlier, you see, more and more Chinese now is really showing genuine sort of interest about Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So these people automatically showing genuine sense of concern of Tibetan because of the Tibetan situation, political situation. So things are changing, really. Now over now since you see, these troubles started now, and earlier I think 60 years passed. We always keep our determination, and we stand firmly non-violent principle like that. So middle approach, not seeking independence. 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 3 empires: Tibetan Empire, Chinese Empire, Mongol Empire, equal. So the one sort of experience or the story. 1954 autumn, I went to Peking. Then summer, I returned. While I'm returning, I also visited Xing'an, the previous Tang dynasty's sort of capital. So the one very, very sacred Buddha statue we kept in Lhasa, that come from that temple. I saw that temple empty seat because the statue from there brought to Tibet. So one day, you see, we just, because of the sightseeing, one high Chinese officials accompany with me. I think vice governor or something. We just sat on ancient wall, on the wall. Then there is Chinese, is a high official. Is he telling us? He didn't mention the century, but he mentioned in ancient time, Tibetan army reached here, and then Chinese emperor escaped from his own capital. So that, you see, indicates at that time, the Tibetan very, very powerful. So imagine the emperor himself, you see, have to escape. And some scholars say about, I think, 2-3 weeks remain outside. Then I think the Tibetan themselves, I think, withdraw or something. So at that time, very, very powerful. Then, recently, I think 2 years ago, I think one American university, Columbia University, they published about past history. They mentioned 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, equal, powerful 3 kingdoms. And then they mentioned the Tibetan Empire, very much concerned about religion, about Buddhism. The Chinese, very much emphasis about political matter. The Mongol emperor, very much emphasis military warfare, like that. So then, Kublai Khan, and Gaza Genghis Khan. This is in line, like that. So past is past. It's quite foolish. You just insist about past history. World changed. That's why I really admire the European spirit. One I consider is my tutor, one German physicist, von Weizsäcker, quantum physicist. Now he, since many years, many occasions, I received lecture or explanation about quantum physics, and as well as David Bohm of England, I received some lecture. Then sometimes I jokingly was telling people, when I listening explanation about quantum physics, it seems I understand something. After finish the lecture, nothing left here. So I truly become hopeless student. So the von Weizsäcker, that's I think 1990s. His own age also around 90. Once he told me when he was young German, every French eye, German is their enemy. Similarly, German eye, French is their enemy. Now that kind of mental attitude completely changed, he mentioned to me. So he said, these people, through centuries, fighting, killing each other. Then, during war, tremendous sort of suffering, tremendous sort of experience. So they realized war, fighting each other, is meaningless. So better to, so that also nationalism, my nation, my nation. So therefore, some kind of, because of the union of Europe is relevant. So de Gaulle and Adenauer, these two, I think more, the European continent, French and German is more powerful. So these two leaders, they have the vision, European Union. I think wonderful. If that European Union not materialize or not develop, I think the last few decades, I think some fighting, like some of the African small nations fighting each other. So, now since Second World War, it's a European continent, I think very peaceful. Even though there's some threat from Warsaw Pact, but still it's a peace. So these, I think, European Union. So therefore, I one of the admirer of the European Union. So with Tibet case also, why not try to remain within the People's Republic of China, and provided they should give us meaningful autonomy. That means we can carry full responsibility regarding preservation of Tibetan environment. And environment is concerned, I think these major rivers which cover from Yangtze River in China, then Mekong River, then the Brahmaputra, and Indus River. This and Ganga River, you see, come from Tibet. So original source from Tibet. But the user of these river is a large number of Indian. I think whole northern India's life depend on these river. So India has some right to show your concern, preservation of those area or nature or environment in those area which these rivers come from. So one time, the previous Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Rongqing, one time he gives some instruction that those area which they come from these major river, because at that time, sort of very serious flood, happened. So he gives this instruction that these area, sensitive area, should not carry deforestation. So like that, I think Indian, I think have certain right, to show your concern, because millions of Indians' life depend on these things. So that's one of my own major concerns regarding Tibet, and then preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan knowledge about the Nalanda tradition. And about the Nalanda tradition, the explanation precisely as Sanskrit language, the Tibetan language, is the best language to explain these sophisticated philosophy and logic. So therefore, the preservation of Tibetan language is not only interest for Tibetan people, 6 million Tibetan people, but I think the larger human being, and particularly Buddhist countries, Buddhist. So therefore, we have to take full responsibility for preservation of Tibetan environment and Tibetan culture, particularly including Tibetan language. So then, mutual benefit remain within the People's Republic of China, and they really destroy a lot. So now they must spend, we ask them more money, and we can develop. So, money matter, they should provide us. Spiritual matter, we can provide them. Good business, isn't it? Then there's a negative attitude, Chinese, Tibetan. No use. Better live harmoniously. And this is 7th century, 8th century, through marriage, very close. So now modern time, not through marriage, but through more deeper level, we can develop close relations, isn't it? So I always think in that way. So many Tibetan, inside Tibet, I think more than 90% fully support about our sort of standing. And outside, there's some criticisms there. But that's understandable. And we're fully implementing democracy and freedom of speech. Very good. But majority really united like that. Thank you. Now I really enjoy this Kasota meeting, and that also give me opportunity reunion some of my long-time friend, and especially Mataji. Really, I appreciate. Thank you very much, and you also. When you are lesson officer, quite young, now you also become old.
20th century. 20th century.
Yes. I usually describe like your age, I consider I describing generation of 21st century. So, in this century, just the beginning. So, if we make effort now, in a systematic way and realistic way, with determination, then I think your later part of your life, you can see better world. The generation of 20th century, we will not see. I think better to say because of the involved, difficult world, we may go heaven, relax. So it is sometimes I really feel, and also you see telling the generation of 20th century, that means the people whose age 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it seems we create more trouble on this planet. So generation of 20th century. So now, actually, we create a lot of work to solve by these generation of 21st century. So, in a sense, we really need a sense of oneness of humanity. A Tibet issue, all these. This is too much emphasis. My nation, my culture, my language. So I really admire the European Union's spirit. In the past, many centuries, fighting, killing each other in the name of their sovereignty. Then after Second World War, they realized, now we have to think the common interest and share each other. So the European Union, the spirit of European Union, I think very realistic, and I think I think very, very important. So I always say telling the spirit of European Union eventually, you see, should create African Union. Then a lot of problem, including fighting, killing, I think can reduce. And then a lot of money spent for weapon that can use because of promotion, the farm system and some sort of industries like that. One of my empty sort of dream is Sahara. There's plenty of solar energy. Now that we should use solar energy and create electricity. That electricity not use industry or some other thing, but desalination, seawater turned to sweet water. Then I think a large area of Sahara can be Greenland. I think I think 1 or 2 billion human beings life, you see, can provide food on these things. Similarly, Australia, last few years, I'm telling, Australia should make effort from all sides. You see, each decade, 100 kilometers or 200 inward, and planting more trees, and again, you see, use seawater like that. So we have the technology. desalination. So that is wonderful. Then I think many sort of positive side effect. Seawater can check. No matter global warming, we extensively use seawater. Then I think we can, otherwise it's Calcutta or Shanghai or Tokyo, I think within a few decades may submerge. Right, submersibles. So like that. So now time comes, we have to think seriously for promotion of sense of oneness of humanity. Now there, the compassion, sense of concern of others' well-being is the key factor. And with that, sense of global responsibility. I myself, when I think I'm one of the human beings, so when I met people, so no barrier. Immediately become very close. If I stress, I'm Dalai Lama, something very special. Then that sort of mental attitude creates barrier. Oh. So out of 7 billion human beings, only one Dalai Lama. If I too much emphasis Dalai Lama, then I become lonely person. When I think we human beings, human brothers, sisters, then this side, when I look, human brothers, and beautiful because of younger sisters or brothers. At this side, experienced old brothers, sisters. So then feel we are same. No need formality, no need diplomatic smile. I tell you have some experience. We just express our nature, right? So now, these days, I am talking. Firstly, we have to work, try to educate our younger generation. The warm-heartedness, compassionate sort of mind is not part of religious practice. It's just something very
Holiness.
Hello.
This is my grandson.
Something like that this morning.
This is my daughter-in-law, Nivedita, and my son, Vivekananda.
Sondhi. Great friend of mine, Sondhi.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Professor M.L. Sondhi Memorial Trust and the M.L. Sondhi Institute for Asia-Pacific Affairs, I extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has gathered here this afternoon, and especially thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who has come down from the cool of Dharamsala to graciously accept the 2016 M.L. Sondhi Prize for International Politics.
Thank you. Seems to be too long. I think 3% together. Thank you.
I request Madam Sondhi to present the plaque to His Holiness. May I now humbly request His Holiness the Dalai Lama to address the audience on compassion and global responsibility. I know he doesn't need any introduction to this audience. His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Respected brothers, sisters, and rest of brothers and sisters. I always stress we are same human being. I truly believe that. I always consider I'm one of the 7 billion human beings. In mysterious level or reincarnation or something. But obviously, nobody should argue we are same human being. I really feel now time come, we have to stress oneness of 7 billion human beings. Because there's a lot of problem, including killing. Actually unthinkable. And more sort of, also the serious thing is, with the name of religion, fighting, killing. All major religious tradition is actually a source of compassion. All major religious tradition carry same message. Message of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline. That very thing of causing division, killing. I think our environment is something wrong. Now it is humanity's responsibility to change that. Not through preaching, not through prayer, but through action. In order to carry realistic, holistic action, firstly, we must develop clear vision here. And not only mere just a vision, we need as a determination with optimistic optimism. So I always share, whenever I talk, I give talk, we are same human being. I want happiness, joyfulness, and the rest of the 7 billion human beings, everyone want happy life. So, meantime, many problems, as I briefly mentioned, many problems essentially our own creation. Now some hopeful sign is, according to some scientific sort of research, they make conclusion, basic human nature is more compassionate. So therefore, there is real hope if we make effort, realistically, with determination. I think my lifetime may not achieve, But later part of 21st century could be more peaceful world, more compassionate world, if we make an effort now. So I mentioned, you see, this young boy, when I met, his eyes, very fresh, very nice. So I told him, this young Indian is a generation who can create a better future. In India's case, more compassionate India. And then, like you, millions and millions of young people of the world relevant to humanity. If we have more compassionate mind, firstly, your physical health much better. Now some scientists also say the constant fear, constant anger is actually eating our immune system. More compassionate mind, more calm mind, very, very helpful to sustain your immune system. So in this respect, look my face. Now 82-year-old person, seems quite handsome. So some people, some my long-time friend, when we met, they expressed to me, since many years, they say, your face not much change. So then they asked me, what's your secret? Then firstly, I jokingly telling, my secret, I don't want to share with other people. Then I seriously explain, nothing. The peace of mind, it really makes differences. Then peace of mind, not because of the lambda through darkness way. I think with darkness way. Not much thinking, not much idea, and comparatively peace. Not that way. My mind quite sharp. The other day in Arunachal, they say one BJP scientist, secretary or something. You see, a few days we become very close friend. Then I told him, each night I spend 9 hours sleep. Then morning, 3 o'clock, wake up, and next for 5 hours meditation. So that meditation sharpening my mind. So with sharp mind, I can I can cheating other people more easily, more wisely. Then since we become quite a friend, a close friendship feeling. So then he responded me, he only 6 hours sleep, so he cannot cheat other people. So the peace of mind, really very important for our physical health. And also, you see, peace of mind, you see, create, I think, the basis of human intelligence properly. Too much emotion, then, you see, because of that, create some kind of, because of the blocks or obstacle, our intelligence objectively look, study, and analyze. So in order to objectively analyze things, our mind must be calm.